The envelope cracked open between my fingers, the sound sharp as a bone breaking. My father's fountain pen signature bled across the bottom of the page. It was the same pen he'd used to sign my Harvard acceptance letter 4 years ago. The restaurant's chandelier light caught my mother's diamond tennis bracelet as she leaned back, satisfied. My sister Olivia slid her phone discreetly beneath the tablecloth, but I caught the red recording light still glowing. "We think this is best for everyone," my mother said, voice honey-coated with rehearsed concern. "A clean break." I stared at the disownment letter. Beneath the legal jargon and cold formality, 3 signatures formed a perfect row. My father Warren's authoritative strokes, my mother Patricia's elegant curves, and Olivia's hasty scrawl. The air conditioning vent above our table blew directly onto my skin, raising goosebumps along my arms. The French restaurant's ambient noise faded to a distant hum as blood rushed to my ears. I watched my hands, steady, unshaking, carefully fold the heavy paper in half, then quarters. "Is there anything you'd like to say?" My father checked his watch. Patek Philippe, limited edition. It was the same dismissive gesture he'd used at every parent-teacher conference he'd bothered to attend. The waiter approached, champagne bottle in hand. "To celebrate the graduate," he announced, unaware he'd walked into an execution. My family's eyes fixed on me, anticipating tears, outrage, the emotional display they'd come to film, a final performance from the family disappointment. I slipped the folded letter into my blazer pocket and reached for my own envelope. "My name is Rebecca. I'm 22 and a data scientist. This is the story of how I turned their silence into my loudest statement." The Bennett family legacy spanned 3 generations of investment banking excellence. Our Chicago lakefront mansion featured in architectural magazines. Our name appeared on university buildings and hospital wings. When people mentioned old money in hushed, reverent tones, they meant families like ours. I was supposed to follow tradition. Wharton undergraduate, then Harvard Business School, then the family firm. Instead, I developed an obsession with algorithms and efficiency metrics. By sophomore year, I'd switched majors from finance to data science, watching my father's expression harden with each academic update I shared. "Numbers are numbers," I tried explaining once. "I'm just using them differently." "Family tradition isn't a math problem you can optimize," he replied, turning back to the quarterly report spread across his mahogany desk. After that conversation, my parents' communication strategy shifted. Questions about my classes stopped. Dinner invitations dwindled. Family photos no longer required my presence. Even holiday gatherings became optional. "We understand if you're too busy with your projects," my mother would text, the passive-aggressive work done. Olivia, 2 years older and already a rising star at Bennett Financial, became their proxy. She'd call occasionally, her voice carefully neutral as she reported family news and reminded me of expectations. "Dad mentioned the junior analyst position again," she said during one such call. "It's still yours if you want it." "I'm building something different," I replied. "Different isn't always better, Becca." Her sigh carried the weight of all their disappointment. Sometimes different is just difficult. I'd already learned to translate Bennett speak. Different meant defiant. Difficult meant disappointing. I was becoming both. My coffee shop job near campus covered rent for a small apartment I shared with 2 engineering students. The constant espresso machine hiss and customer chatter became the soundtrack to my life. It was a sharp contrast to our family home's cathedral-like silence. Between shifts, I coded at a corner table, building what started as a class project and evolved into something more. Root Logic began as an algorithm to optimize coffee bean delivery schedules. Small shipments, minimal storage space, unpredictable demand. These were the coffee shop owner's constant headaches. My solution reduced waste by 23% during the first test month. Dr. Sanchez, my advanced analytics professor, noticed the project during midterm reviews. "This has potential beyond coffee beans," she said, tapping her pen against my laptop screen. "Supply chain optimization at this scale could transform small business logistics." She connected me with the university's startup incubator. By winter break, Root Logic had expanded to 3 test clients. By spring, we had seed funding and a small team. Just me, Zach handling UX design, and Kayla managing client relationships. I didn't tell my family. Their questions would come with conditions, their interest with expectations. Besides, they'd stopped asking about my life months ago. The morning we closed our first major investment round, $2.4 million from Vertex Ventures, I stood in my tiny kitchen staring at my phone. The family group chat showed my sister's law firm promotion announcement with a string of champagne emoji reactions. My thumb hovered over the screen, the urge to share my own news nearly overwhelming. Instead, I put the phone down and went to work. We moved into real office space that summer. Nothing fancy, just an open-concept loft with exposed brick and questionable heating. The team expanded to 12 people. Kayla hung a whiteboard by my desk with our client acquisition targets. Halfway through the list was Bennett Financial. I erased it during a late-night coding session. Some connections weren't worth making. Then James Mitchell from North Star Logistics reached out. His company needed exactly what we'd built, and they were willing to pay for it. Not just as clients, but as acquirers. The initial offer came in at $5.8 million. After 2 weeks of negotiation, we settled on $7.2 million, with guaranteed positions for the entire team, including a director role for me. The contracts were signed on Tuesday. My graduation ceremony was scheduled for Saturday. The family dinner invitation arrived Wednesday morning. My mother's perfectly curated text suggesting Maison Lumière, where the Bennett family celebrated all significant milestones. My father selected the wines in advance. My mother arranged the flowers. Olivia documented everything for their carefully curated social presence. I accepted with a simple, "I'll be there." The night before the dinner, I sat in my apartment surrounded by documents. The acquisition paperwork, press releases scheduled for Monday morning, my graduation certificate in its leather portfolio. 4 years of systematic effort laid out in black and white. Proof, all of it. Not of success, but of existence, of choices made and paths taken. I slid everything into a sleek leather portfolio, the kind my father would approve of, at least aesthetically. I fell asleep listening to Chicago traffic 17 floors below. The next evening, I arrived at Maison Lumière precisely on time. The maitre d' hesitated when I gave my name. "The Bennett reservation," I clarified. He checked his tablet again. "I have the Bennett family listed as 4 guests, but only 3 have arrived." Of course, my name wasn't on the reservation. I was the subject of the dinner, not a participant. "I'm the 4th, I said, maintaining eye contact until he nodded. The maitre d' led me through the dimly lit restaurant. Between tables of Chicago's elite discussing market trends and vacation properties, I spotted my family immediately. They were arranged like a perfect tableau, waiting for their subject to arrive. The table was positioned perfectly, central enough to be seen, private enough for conversation. My mother had already arranged herself like a magazine cover, her silk blouse exactly matching the dinner napkins. My father studied the wine list with unnecessary concentration. Olivia angled her chair for optimal social media documentation. "Darling!" My mother air-kissed near both my cheeks. "The guest of honor arrives." I accepted the performance, taking my designated seat. The waiter appeared with champagne, pouring 4 flutes with practiced precision. My father raised his glass. "To endings and beginnings." The toast completed, my mother reached into her designer handbag and withdrew a cream-colored envelope, placing it beside my bread plate. The paper was heavyweight, the kind used for legal documents and permanent records. "We've given this considerable thought," she began, her therapy-practiced voice hitting the perfect note of compassionate detachment. "And we believe this arrangement will benefit everyone." I opened the envelope slowly, though I already knew what it contained. The disownment document was legally unnecessary. I was an adult with my own finances, but it was symbolically significant. The Bennett family formally severing ties with its wayward daughter, written in contractual language my father's lawyers had undoubtedly scrutinized. My mother continued her prepared speech about family legacies and different paths, while I read each word carefully. The document acknowledged my choice to pursue alternative career options outside the family business and formally released me from obligations and expectations associated with the Bennett. Translation. I was being erased. Olivia's phone captured every moment. My face as I read, my hands as they held the paper, my silence as I processed their rejection. The perfect dramatic content for their carefully curated narrative. I refolded the document along crisp lines and tucked it into my jacket pocket. "Is that all?" I asked. My father's eyebrows rose slightly. It was the most emotion he typically displayed in public. "You're taking this well." "What did you expect? Tears? A scene?" I kept my voice level, matching his practiced boardroom tone. "We thought you might have questions," my mother said, her planned script derailing. "I think everything is perfectly clear." I reached for my portfolio and placed it on the table. "As it happens, I have something for you as well." I withdrew the North Star acquisition documents, slides from our final presentation, and the press release scheduled for Monday morning. I arranged them in a neat row between the bread baskets and water glasses. "What's this?" My father's attention sharpened, financial documents triggering his professional interest despite himself. "My alternative career option." I tapped the North Star logo embossed at the top of the page. "They acquired my company 2 days ago. The announcement goes public on Monday." "Your company?" Olivia lowered her phone, momentarily forgetting to record. "Root Logic, the supply chain optimization system I've been building for the past 3 years." I met my father's gaze directly. "The one you never asked about." He picked up the acquisition summary, scanning the numbers with practiced efficiency. His expression shifted as he reached the final figure, $7.2 million. "This is legitimate." He couldn't quite keep the surprise from his voice. "Completely. I'm joining as Director of Implementation Strategy next month." I kept my tone conversational, as though discussing the weather. "We've already secured contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies." "Why didn't you tell us?" My mother's perfect composure cracked slightly. "You stopped asking." The simple truth hung in the air between us. Olivia reached for the press release, skimming the content. "This mentions your development of the core algorithm while working as a barista." "The coffee shop by campus. I worked there for 3 years." "We thought that was just," my mother trailed off. "Just what? A hobby? A phase? A failure?" I kept my voice level despite the heat rising in my chest. "You never actually asked." My father was still processing the acquisition documents, his financial mind automatically calculating valuations and terms. I could see the exact moment he registered my ownership percentage. "This is quite an accomplishment," he said finally, CEO voice activated. "Perhaps we've been too hasty in our assessment." I almost laughed at the transparency of it. One multi-million-dollar exit, and suddenly I was worthy of consideration. "The document is already signed," I reminded him, nodding toward my pocket where their disownment letter rested, "by all of you." "Documents can be amended," he countered smoothly. "Some things shouldn't be." I gathered my materials and returned them to my portfolio. "You've made your position clear. I'm respecting your decision." "Rebecca," my mother reached for my hand, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light. "We're your family." "No," I said gently, pulling away from her grasp. "You're the Bennetts. I'm just Rebecca now. You've made sure of that." I stood, portfolio tucked under my arm. Olivia's phone remained dark in her hand, the story no longer following their expected script. "Your arrangement, as you called it, works perfectly for me," I said, straightening my blazer. "You wanted a clean break. You've got one." I walked through the restaurant without looking back, each step lighter than the last. I pushed through the heavy wooden doors and stepped into the warm evening air outside. Chicago's summer evening embraced me. Warm air, taxi horns, the distant rumble of the L train. Real life, messy and loud and wonderfully unpredictable. My phone vibrated with a text from Zach. "Team celebration at Murphy's in an hour. You coming?" I smiled and typed back, "On my way." The team had planned this celebration for weeks, anticipating our acquisition closing. Murphy's was our unofficial headquarters. It was the Irish pub 3 blocks from our office where we'd celebrated every milestone. I flagged down a taxi and gave the driver the address. 20 minutes later, I walked into Murphy's to the sound of cheers from my team, the people who'd actually seen what I was building. The disownment letter remained in my pocket, a weight I'd carried long before they'd put it on paper. But now it was just paper. Their signatures, their decision, their loss. Within a month, I'd complete the process of legally changing my surname, making the separation as official as they'd wanted. They thought they were writing my ending. They didn't realize they had just freed me to begin. If you've ever been underestimated or overlooked by the people who should have believed in you first, remember, success isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Your silence can become your strength when you're building something that will eventually speak for itself. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.